Hello and welcome to Seattle City Makers. I'm your host, Jon Scholes. Welcome to our latest episode. I'm joined by Megan Jasper, the CEO of Sub Pop Records in Seattle. And we continued to be asked, why haven't you had Megan Jasper on Seattle City Makers by numerous people? So we are thrilled to announce that we have Megan Jasper on Seattle City Makers. And we have no good excuse for not having her on early, given the impact that she has had on our city and our music scene. Megan started her career in 1989 as an intern for Sub Pop, quickly was then hired as the label's receptionist and held a number of roles there and has been the CEO for a number of years. She's involved in the music scene in Seattle as chair of KEXP's board currently, was involved with the Vera Project, helped abolish the teen dance ordinance, serving on a city task force many years ago. She's deeply connected to our city and deeply passionate about it. We talk about her rise at Sub Pop, some of the great music they have coming out this year and what she's looking forward to, her perspective on our music venues and music scene in general, and a little more context and insight on that prank she pulled on the New York Times many years ago. I hope you enjoy my conversation with the CEO of Sub Pop Records, Megan Jasper.
I mean, my first memory, I was a baby. I mean, I remember my mother holding me.
No.
Yes.
That's a thing.
Yeah, in a duplex that we lived in when I was a baby. I remember it really clearly.
Trippy.
And I remember her and my dad talking. Don't remember what they were saying. And then I remember just turning 3 and telling somebody, like another kid, that I was 3 using my fingers. Standing next to flowers, and specifically the flower, there was a, oh my God, what's it called? Bird of Paradise.
Yeah, you got me on that.
Yeah.
Because we moved to Seattle from Buffalo, New York when I was like 5 or 6, and I couldn't tell you a single memory from Buffalo.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
It's funny how our brains work.
Uh-huh.
So my husband's the same way.
That's good. Yeah.
He doesn't pull up super early stuff. I'm like, really? And then I just start whipping out weird stories.
Yeah.
But, it's like, is the memory to be trusted anyways?
That's right. Do we really know?
We don't.
Yeah.
We think we do.
We're rolling.
Okay.
No, this is fine. Well, speaking of memories, so you came to Seattle on tour with Dinosaur Jr. where you're like a roadie, right? And
Yeah.
through the Central Saloon.
Yeah.
That was your first time in Seattle?
It was my
late
first
80s?
time in Seattle. Yeah.
And you talk about falling in love instantly with the city.
Yeah.
Ironically, because the roadie you replaced left the tour because they fell in love with somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
So that happened overseas. So before that, I was in Berlin.
Yeah. With Dinosaur Jr.
Yeah. And their roadie, John
And then
Fettler.
you did a U.S. tour.
I did the U.S. bug tour.
What made you fall in love with Seattle? Love at first sight?
I remember when we pulled in, it was like cloudy and, for Seattle, kind of normal weather, but some people would say crappy.
Yeah.
But
kind of like today, right? Like just kind of blah.
It's like kind of gray.
Yeah.
I loved it. I got an immediate hit of Maine. It reminded me of coastal Maine.
Yeah.
Because you have the water, you have like tons of evergreen trees, tall evergreens. There was something about just the feel of it that felt very kind of a little coastal New England. And I really appreciated that so much. So the other thing I loved was we went to Fallout Records. I saw Polaroids of all of the bands who had been in the record store. And I was like, oh my God, this is a great fucking record store. So at that same time, the East Coast was experiencing a recession. And so there wasn't a whole lot of anything really happening there. I mean, there were good people and everything, but there was a lot of construction that was at a standstill. There were families who were relocating to other parts of the country. It felt really weird. And in Seattle, there were cranes in the sky. You could see cranes everywhere. And so I thought, this place is cool. And I remember looking around and seeing tons of young people, like young people in restaurants, young people in stores.
You like the vibe.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk about the cranes in the air. I'm thinking that's the mid-late 80s of the big downtown office boom.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It felt exciting. It felt like you could tell the city was becoming something more than what it had been.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to not know what that will be. And I thought, I might need to live here. Plus the music.
Has the roadies relationship lasted as long as yours has with Seattle, or do you know?
You mean my immediate falling in love with Seattle?
Yeah, the roadie that left the band that created the opportunity for you to be on tour left for like a love, right?
He did. He ended up getting married. They had kids. I think they were married for a couple of decades, I think. So but the marriage didn't last.
Okay.
But he got a family from the deal.
That's great.
So he did well.
Are you still as in love with Seattle?
I am. Yeah. I would say that like any long-term relationship, it has challenged me at times. I will also say that my admiration and love for the city has deepened through the decades. Yeah.
And so you went from touring with Dinosaur Jr., then you end up at Sub Pop for a day-long internship that turned into a job as the receptionist.
Yeah.
Over at the Terminal Sales Building when they were first headquartered there, right?
Yeah, which we always laugh at that because any business that's in a building called Terminal Sales seems like it shouldn't have much of a future.
Do you remember it being super hot in there in the summers? Like the sun just beats into that building, I know.
You know, I don't remember it as being super hot.
No, you don't care being hot when you're a kid, I think, or younger.
Yeah, I probably didn't give a shit. But the other thing is there was that rooftop.
Yeah, which
so,
also gets super hot.
Yeah.
It's like the hottest rooftop in Seattle, I think.
That is so funny. So we would go there at the end of the day, and I remember it being kind of chilly. And Jonathan and I would share a cigarette. We were both like smokers, but real light smokers. And so we'd share a cigarette at the end of the day.
So take us to the job of a receptionist in 1989.
Yeah. So I will say...
pre-internet and email and...
Yeah.
What were your roles and responsibilities?
Well, I remember...
For an emerging record label.
When I started as a receptionist... I had to learn a 5-line system, which they asked me if I knew how to use a phone like that. And I had no idea, but I was like, of course I do. And I just figured it out. And it's funny because now I think that's pretty easy, but it actually wasn't. Like those phones blew the fuck up. It was so busy.
There's no other way to reach people, right?
There was no way to reach people. And Sub Pop was exciting. And so people wanted to ask a million questions. They wanted to talk to people who worked there. They wanted to find out where their records were. Maybe their records were late. They hadn't been mailed yet. There was always something. So it was managing all of those phone calls. And there were a lot of people who knew the company well enough or the people well enough to say, you know what, I just stay on the phone with you until Jonathan's off
until
of his call?
Show
and
up.
I'd be like, oh God, okay. But when you do that, you get to know people really well. So I felt like I was becoming immediate friends with a lot of people very quickly. Or at least acquaintances.
Yeah.
But it was fun and weird people called, including like Nick Cave called one day, and I was a mammoth Nick Cave fan. I was like, oh my fucking God, Nick Cave is on the fucking phone.
Do you remember what he wanted?
Yeah. They were talking about doing a single.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh my God. But like musicians were calling constantly. It was awesome. And like normal people were calling. The people who worked at record stores, I remember so many of them still. I had a few favorites. because they were just really kind, funny people who wanted to buy some records. And everyone was so busy that you're just like, you're juggling everything. When Jonathan and Bruce would go to lunch, I used those old notebooks where
The pink,
yeah, like while you were out,
right? Yeah.
And I would have stacks like 2 or 3 inches thick for the two of them. It was busy and it was exciting and it was nuts and it was chaotic and it was stressful and exhilarating at the same time. I mean,
we forget like pre-cell phone, pre-email, pre-Slack, all these other ways that people can reach each other now, like how much funneled through the desk of a receptionist.
The new ways kind of feel like bullshit when you think of like, even though it was clogged, it was so much easier to just manage one source of traffic. That job might be the best job I will ever have.
Was that the job you were in when you took the call from the New York Times reporter and made some shit up about grunge lexicon?
Close. So after, I left Sub Pop for a short period of time. I was laid off in 91.
So much for that sizzling Seattle economy.
I know, exactly. It seemed like the economy was good, but the thing about Sub Pop is it was not founded by businessmen. It was founded by music lovers. And all of us who worked there were just music geeks. So we learned how to do business by fucking a lot of shit up and then doing some things really well. That was business school.
So it was on your trip back to Sub Pop when you got handed the call from the New York Times reporter.
Yeah, I was a salesperson and I was doing distribution, selling Sub Pop stuff. And Jonathan told me that I might get a phone call from the New York Times. I was like, it sounds like a long shot. He said, and
were you taking media calls at the time for the company, or it was just?
No, but Jonathan and I were close. We remained really good friends, and he told me that they were doing an article on grunge, and I was like, oh, that sounds weird. And he said, you probably have more fun with it than I would. And I think they're talking about a lexicon or something. I'm like, there's no way they're talking about a lexicon. I was like, I'll just send them my way. I'll chat with them. They were talking about a fucking lexicon.
And you made one up.
Yeah.
It didn't exist, but
it did after we hung up.
Yeah, you created it.
Yeah.
And you were just trying to be funny and thought they'd be in on the joke, but
and I'd had a shitload of coffee and I was like, in a dark basement apartment in Seattle.
Did you hang up and regret not bringing them in on the joke, or did you think they were in on the joke?
I hung up confused
because
it was so outrageous. And it never ended with us laughing at the joke. And so I just hung up, and honestly, I'd forgotten about it. And then I thought, well, that was a fine use of my time because I was able to get a break from work. And I never thought about it again. I thought it would die and never see the light of day until my mom called me a couple of months later.
She had read the article.
Yeah. Yeah, she was like, go pick up the New York Times. I'm like, oh my fucking God.
Did you get in trouble with anybody?
Well, it's funny. My first thought was I'm going to get in trouble with my mom.
Because you didn't tell the truth?
Yeah, but she didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So
she's like, my daughter's in the New York Times. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, she was like, that's all right. You get a pass. But I got yelled at by the editor. They called me a while later, and they told me that they printed it tongue in cheek. And so I asked,
so what's the problem?
Why are you yelling at me then? And they said, well, I think they told me that it wasn't good to lie, but they thought it was a funny joke. I'm like, still don't understand why you're yelling at me. And then they asked me where they could buy the T-shirts that said lame stain and cobnobbler. I'm like, you can. I gave them the person's number who was selling them. They bought a shitload of them. And then I never heard from them again.
Yeah. Life went on.
Yeah.
Any more pranks on journalists that followed?
No.
But you didn't go into
mark?
it. It's been characterized as a prank, but you didn't go into it trying to play a prank. You were just sort of having a good time.
Yeah. I mean, I also love a prank.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But I don't think I've pranked journalists, but I'm saying that with a question mark at the end because I may have.
Well, if you don't remember, and your memory's spot on, so it didn't happen.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
So you grew up thinking you might be a nun, a school teacher, or a stay-at-home mom, but music took hold of your passions and drive and direction at a pretty early age, I know. And you had a job as a late night or early morning, which is at midnight to 3 a.m.
Yeah.
at NPR as a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
With a punk radio show.
Yeah.
How'd you get that gig? And then what did you do like before midnight, like before the show? Like what were you, what was like the nightly, and then after the show, did you like go somewhere, like go to Denny's or something? Like what was
I
what
can
was
tell
your
you
routine?
exactly what I did. So the first shift we had was from 3 a.m. to 7:30 in the morning. And so it was like late night, Friday night, Saturday morning. So I would take a nap for about 2 or 3 hours, wake up. Either my parents or my friends' parents would drive us to the radio station. We'd do the radio show. I usually walked home after that and then took a nap.
You're getting a ride at 2:30 or so in the morning from.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Those are cool parents.
Those are really cool parents.
Yeah.
Weirdly, the radio station was housed in the same building as the Department of Youth Services, and that's where my probation officer, I would meet with him once a week.
And that was because
That's because in the state of Massachusetts, if you had a kid that you thought was going sideways, it was called the Wayward Child Act. You could bring the kid into the court system, and they had a probation officer. And my sister and I used to run away. We hated everything. I mean, we were just angry teenage kids who loved punk rock. And my parents were like, what the fuck is happening?
We need
with
some
my kids?
extra help, another set of eyes.
Yeah. And I will say at the time I was like, oh, what are they thinking? Like, but we were really good kids, but we did hang out with kids who were doing a lot of drugs. They were getting super fucked up. I didn't care to do that. I really only cared about music.
Yeah.
So, and they were in bands or loved music. And so I wanted to hang out with them. I didn't care to do drugs with them. I didn't care to drink with them, but I wanted to be around them and listen to music. So I can kind of understand why my parents were like, take them into the court system. But it does crack me up because I hated going to see the probation officer, and I loved going to the radio station.
And you were going to see the probation officer before you got the radio station gig. I
feel like actually I started being a DJ first. Yeah.
But very efficient.
Yeah. The other funny thing is there was a hardcore band from Boston called DYS, which is Department of Youth Services. So I felt super punk.
And then your time slot got moved. Then you were midnight to 3.
Yeah, it's like a big promotion.
That's
midnight to 3.
better than 3 to 7.
Yeah, way better. 3 to 7:30.
3 to 7:30. You got drive time though there.
Yes. I think it made everyone a lot happier when, like, it's easier to take a kid, drop them off around midnight. But we must have been picked up at like.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Where are you going at? 3, just going home, going to sleep.
Yeah. And I will say that, like, the city I lived in, Worcester, was kind of sketchy. And so there were times when I would be walking home and I'd be like, ugh. Plus I looked like a freak of nature. Like,
You were punked out.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think I attracted a lot of weirdos. And so I remember like people rolling down their windows and I was like, ugh, this doesn't feel safe.
Kind of hard to run away as a punk kid.
It's kind of hard to run
stick
away.
out, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we ran away to the radio station. We'd
Yeah.
stay in the jazz room and set up shop.
And this was an NPR affiliate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're still around.
Yeah. Do they still have a late night punk show?
Yep.
Do they really?
They do. Yeah. And Uncle Mark, who's one of the DJs, he was the he was the music director. He still has a show there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who gave you the job?
Yeah.
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 So your parents, I know, were pretty influential in you loving music at an early age. You talk about them both buying you books on a regular occasion and music and letting you pick out records. And
Yeah. They were pretty great about it.
when do you remember falling in love with music and what made it so important to you as a youngster? Because you didn't play much.
Oh no, I can't
or sing
play for
or
shit.
but you were a
Totally tone deaf.
consumer and lover of music.
Yep.
Where did that all come from? Was it their influence? And
I think so. Like they always had the radio going, so I always knew like all the new songs, but like the new top 40 songs.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is the only one in the family who's not tone deaf, and so he actually could sing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him taking banjo lessons when I was a kid. They really encouraged us. But my sister was also really obsessed, and she got a transistor radio for her birthday, and I was so fucking jealous. She would carry it around, so my parents finally got me a radio too, and then I
How
would
old were
carry
you then?
mine around.
you remember?
I must have been maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I remember Casey Kasem. We would
Mm-hmm.
I would hang on every story. And then as an adult, I got really excited at the videos of him losing his shit in between like takes. But yeah, we hung on all of that. And I still love a lot of those songs from back then. Like I still love the Carpenters. I still love listening to like John Denver, like all that stuff that's kind of like, I know a lot of people feel it's super goofy. It is. And I fucking love it.
And it was
Roger Whittaker. Do you
and it
remember?
was no, I don't remember Roger Whittaker.
God.
Hum a Roger Whittaker tune.
Well, you won't recognize it because I'm tone deaf. but I'll play some for you afterwards.
Yeah. So speaking of sort of musical discovery, describe the gig of an A&R person in the record industry. And how do you become one of those?
Well, I think you become one of those when someone trusts your take on music enough to offer you a job.
Yeah.
But I also think you have to trust your own take on music. And I can't say I did. It took me a really long time. I trusted.
Like you liked it, but you're like, I don't think this is. This is good for me, but.
Yeah. I always identified as like a flaming misfit weirdo. And so what worked for me was probably
what do I know
not,
about mainstream?
Yeah. Like it's not going to work for everybody else. But what I've come to learn is if you like it, there are probably a million other people who would also like whatever it is, whether it's food or music or art. And so anyway, I think some of it has to do with your relationship with music and with self. But
you have to love yourself before you can
and you have to
be a good discerner of music.
You have to be okay with, like, you have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
But at Sub Pop, what we do is we have A&R people who are basically scouts and project managers. So it means something a little different at a lot of different labels. But those are the people who sign bands. They identify a band that's interesting or doing something that sounds wonderful or unique or whatever adjective we want to use, and then you try to sign them to the label so that they can be marketed and sold and all of those things. And at where I work at Sub Pop, it's that A&R person who sees it through, like, from start to finish. So they're talking to the band often while they're recording or after they deliver a record, and then explaining, like, the marketing process and really being a point person to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks.
Can you, do you know if you like something within like the first 30 seconds? I find that, like, I will just listen through, and it's so easy now, right? With streaming and everything, you can listen and it's like, it either like grabs you or it doesn't, especially if it's a new artist to you. Then you don't know.
So sometimes I do know immediately, but what I always know immediately is if I don't like it.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, it's real hard to kind of just stay on it. But sometimes I'm intrigued and I'm not sure what I think.
I might not like it, but I might like it.
And then it gets locked in my head, and then I'm like, ugh, it feels like a worm that's eating your brain and you can't get it out of your head. Like, and then you realize you love what you're hearing, and then it makes its way into your dreams, and you can't shake it.
Are you someone that's always listening to music, like no matter what setting you're in, like on the bus, walking, in the office, at home? Do you always have music going?
I often have music on. Sometimes I like silence. Sometimes when I go running, I like to just hear what's around me. If I'm by the water, sometimes I don't want to hear anything at all. And there are times when it's like I want to just blast music. On flights, I sometimes bring books. I'm like, I'm going to plow through this book on the flight, and I don't open it up at all. I listen to music the whole time and cannot believe how the time passed that quickly. A couple of flights coming back from Europe, I didn't read anything. I listened to music the whole time and could have kept going, had to keep recharging my AirPods. But yeah, I listen to a lot of music. And somehow I feel like I'm not listening to enough.
Yeah, it seems like there's just so much out there. Like,
there's so much out there.
Great artists producing more great music, and then just great new artists all the time.
Totally.
And it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, because I want to keep moving forward, and I love listening to new stuff, but I also love listening to old stuff.
Yeah.
And I love going back. And then sometimes this new thing is reminding me of this old thing, and then that takes me on a weird thing where I have to listen to an hour of Elvis Presley, and it's like it just takes you wherever it wants you to go.
You've seen a ton of change in this industry over 30 plus years. What's the most significant change and difference today in the record industry, music business, from when you started?
I would say the thing that is the most different, and I mean, it's the fact that so many people are consuming music in so many different ways. And it's like, if you think about it, it just shuts your brain down. But so getting music out to all of the people in the way that they prefer to listen to music is kind of crazy and super challenging, and also kind of awesome because it means that more people are engaging and listening. One of the challenges with it is that it's harder to develop a brand new artist, like fresh out of the gate. There's so much room for them to get lost.
Because there's so many people creating and making.
Yeah, there's so much.
And the barrier to entry is lower than 30, 40 years ago?
Yeah, and there's just so much volume. So it used to be that there were fewer gateways and
the labels.
Labels, but also the way that people can like listen to music. You could listen on the radio, so you could send records to radio stations. You were selling through record stores. You weren't streaming or doing like downloads didn't exist. So people would go into record stores, and a salesperson who loved music would hand sell a lot of records. There were times when you could look at a city. We got reports from SoundScan, is what it was called back in the day. And we'd look at market breakdowns and we'd say, what the fuck is happening in, Spokane, Washington? And what was happening is that Bob from 4,000 Holes was selling, loved
was a super
this one
fan.
record. Yeah. And was hand selling it to people going in. And so it felt like it was easier to find those kinds of people. And then maybe you could build a story. So like if someone was selling a lot of records in one store, you could find the local radio station and make sure they were playing it. And you could find the local music writers and make sure they maybe gave a heads up that this band is going to be coming to town. You could really connect the dots a lot easier. We still do that in different ways, but it's more challenging. There are so many doorways to go through now, and you have to cover all the fucking bases.
How do you make money now as an artist and a label different than 30, 40 years ago?
It's a lot of the same ways and some different ways. So we still make a lot of money through record sales, through physical record sales, through streaming. Streaming pays vinyl and digital. So we still sell a lot of vinyl. We even sell some cassettes. We still sell some CDs, even though those are going away. And we do good digital business. So even though a stream may pay a fraction of a penny, the thing that's been interesting about streaming is that it has completely opened up markets that were not open before. So we really didn't do a whole lot of business south of North America, in Asia, in Russia, in Eastern Europe. There were countries that were even hard to figure out that were more accessible countries. So Japan was always like a tough market. So streaming has opened up all of those areas in a way that's been really interesting. It has then allowed musicians to play shows in those countries, those cities where they couldn't imagine going before. But it's allowed for us to not just sell music, but to also track the business so that we know if it makes sense for an artist to play a show there.
To tour somewhere.
Yeah.
Because you're not relying on getting a physical product there to be in that market.
Yeah, and the physical products that used to exist in a lot of markets were just illegal copies of records. I mean, I bought records like that. I was psyched to get my hands on shit like that. But that's what sold. Now you can stream in India and maybe even tour in India.
And speaking of physical products, you all have some retail outlets, one just down the street here in downtown and at the airport. Am I missing?
No, those are our two shops.
What drove the investment in a brick and mortar presence? Are you looking to do more?
I would say we always entertain new opportunities. And we're talking to the folks at SeaTac Airport about maybe getting a kiosk. We sort of had a dream of having a store there. And we went in to talk about a kiosk. We didn't want to do a kiosk. And when we got there, they said, we actually want to try a shop and we can do this. We have, we could do a pop-up for like a year and a half and see how it goes until it's time for us to turn that room around. And that was 11 years ago, almost 11 years ago. And we loved it. We were so psyched to get in there. We kind of learned how the airport worked. And we had another
with hours and volume and customers and
and 365 days a year,
Yeah.
opening at 5 a.m., closing at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's some benefits to being there with all that traffic, but some business operational challenges too, I imagine.
it's pretty nuts. And like when the weather super turns and you're like, ooh, how does this work?
Yeah.
But you figure it all out, and it's been pretty amazing. And then we were really lucky to get that downtown office, our store, and we opened that right when nobody was opening stores, right in the middle of the pandemic.
That's right.
Yeah.
Was like 22 or something like that? Or?
Yeah, it opened in, I think it was 21.
Oh, earlier than that. Wow.
Yeah. But it's done really well for us.
And you were making that decision because you felt good about the performance of SeaTac and how you operated that?
Yeah, and we figured, like, we were talking about doing it even before the pandemic, but then it took a little bit for it to actually, for us to secure it. And is that right? We were doing it right around all of that time. And when things slowly started to open up again, I think it was in like winter of 2020, we opened it, and it was pretty slow, but I would say our landlords were so understanding of the business, and it slowly grew quite a bit.
Yeah, and you all do such a great job in just merchandising those stores. They look great. They're just fun to be in. I was in the one in Amazon's property not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I bought a record. I can't remember what it was now, but it's just and I just was by the airport 2 days ago. It's a great.
It's a fun store.
Yeah, it's well merchandised.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot, because that's not what we typically do. It's what we do now. But
are there other record labels with brick and mortar stores? Was that a model that you saw somebody else do and like, hey, this?
No, we're just nut jobs.
But it's worked. How important is the personality of an artist in your decision to work with them or not? Will you work with somebody who makes great music but is an asshole?
I love that question. No. We have, but
name names.
But now we have what we call a no asshole policy.
Yeah.
That we've had in place for quite some time now. And so if someone's just a flaming fucking douchebag, it's like, it's so not worth it, because life's too short. And like, we want to love our jobs. So maybe let's just be a fan and love their music and not bother with them as a subhuman.
Yeah.
But
and you probably attract less assholes now. That is the word on the street that Sub Pop has a high standard for being a decent human and making great music.
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the assholes probably don't come your way as much, I would think.
Yeah. The shit smears stay to themselves.
What's your take on cancel culture as it relates to
my God,
people who
that's
make
such a good
music?
question.
Do you subscribe to the love the art, hate the artist mentality? Not in who you sign, but in who you listen to.
I listen to so much music that even if I think an artist was difficult or did some really fucked up stuff, there are still artists I listen to. And I struggle with cancel culture for a couple of reasons. On one hand, I totally understand it. And I think when someone maybe does something that is so brutal on every level and really impossible to reconcile, it's really hard to want to support that. On the other hand, I struggle with it being synonymous with censorship. And when someone is burning books or not selling books or destroying music because that artist doesn't believe in God or whatever the thing is, like, I have a hard time with that. And there's a part of me that feels like cancel culture and like more of an old school censorship. It's like where the right meets the left.
Yeah, where it comes around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
it's hard to reconcile. But like if I know that someone artist has like, you know, like assaulted a bunch of women, like I would tend to not want to listen to the music, women or men, like whoever, like someone really damaging someone. I struggle with all of it.
And it likely as well maybe takes the joy out of that art.
Yeah.
Relative to the time prior to
and
you learning about whatever the thing was, right? It's like, if you're not enjoying it, then
I would also say that like I would like to choose myself, like who I cancel, and maybe not
versus being told who you should.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but like as someone working at a label, I probably wouldn't want to work with someone who was kind of a douche.
Yeah, do business.
Yeah.
What do you attribute your success to of rising from a intern to a receptionist the next day?
I would say
in sales, and then now the CEO for a number of years of.
I mean, on one hand, you could probably say she can on one hand, I could probably just say that I don't remove myself from stressful situations. On the other hand, I would say I am really good at committing myself to something that I love and believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And I do see my life as a success because I've been able to live a life that I truly love and enjoy. And I'm so proud of however big or small my contributions have been, not just to Sub Pop, but to Seattle, like a city that I love, and to the music community, because all I ever gave a shit about as a young kid was being able to participate in something that I really, really cared about and related to. So the fact that I've been able to participate and be a part of and give back to, like, that is rewarding in a way that I can't even describe.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel so fucking good and happy. Yeah.
When Sub Pop first came to be, it was really helping to reflect this new movement, mood, energy, genre of music in Seattle, grunge, and sort of capture the essence and vibe of the city and sort of reflect it out to the rest of the country and world.
Yeah.
And you've done that as a company and label really throughout your history. How do you think of the vibe and zeitgeist and brand of the city today relative to when the label began and when you first got connected to Seattle?
I'd say there are some things that have remained true throughout the evolution. I think that Seattle is still, even with our population having increased, like nearly doubled from the time I moved here, I still think we move slower than in a good way, than a lot of other major American cities.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that
our pace of life.
Our pace of life and care about quality of life.
Yeah.
I would also say that, and so I think that applies to like both like Sub Pop and Seattle. Like at Sub Pop, I think we can organize things and have timelines, but the reality is we play with the time and sort of make it our own time and in a weird way. I would also say, on the East Coast, people didn't talk about being entrepreneurs. And I'd say that spirit is still super alive in the city and at Sub Pop. You know, the Bruce and Jon were, we said it earlier, they were music nerds who just wanted to do this thing so that they didn't have to get a real job. And then they turned this weird thing into real jobs for a whole lot of us. I think that still lives on in Seattle. I'd also say, you know, like we're kind of crunchy in that funny way. Like we care about the environment and we care about our place in the environment. And so there's sort of a deep respect and reverence to our surroundings. And I think that's true at both the label and in the city as well. I will say...
That's well said, and not something you find everywhere.
Yeah. I do think people dress a lot better in Seattle now. Like when I came here, it really was like ratty old shorts and a whole lot of fleece. And I remember even going to the opera once and I got super dressed up and there were not a ton of dressed up people. I saw fleece and I was like mortified. I'm like, this is, you would never see this on the fucking East Coast.
Yeah.
This is only in Seattle that people look like they just got out of
the mountain.
Yeah.
They were
like
enjoying the place.
Used bin at REI. Like they were dirty weirdos.
They were out
like,
enjoying their surroundings.
I know. That is not the place. That is the time to enjoy a fucking shower and then show up
your
clean.
Ass dressed up.
Yes.
Yeah, I still think I don't know if the pandemic was helpful to our
probably
sense
not.
of style here.
No, but I mean, you look in this room, everyone has black on. That was not normal.
Yeah.
Not decades ago in Seattle.
I do dress more comfortably now. I like comfort is prioritized.
Oh, me too. You will never find me in heels.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have hemorrhoids than wear heels. I mean, that sounds horrible.
Both of them, yeah.
Yeah, they're both bad.
Sound pretty bad.
But if you have to choose one.
Yeah, heels must be bad.
I mean,
yeah.
I can't walk in them, so it's like I'd have more than one problem. I'd have the heels as a problem and then injuries.
You're at risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite venue in town? Are you? So I shouldn't assume you like to go out and hear live music. Maybe
I
you
love
like
to hear live music.
Okay, it was not a big assumption, but do you have a favorite venue?
I'd say yes, I do. I have a lot of venues that I love because I have really good memories attached to them.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm ruling out a million, but I really love seeing a show at the Showbox.
Yeah.
Like there is something about that room that it is so special. But you know what my really close second is? It's not an old venue. It's the Rabbit Box.
Oh, yeah.
In the market.
Yeah.
That place is special.
Yeah.
That's a great room.
Good plug for the Rabbit Box.
Yeah. I love that space. I feel like every time I go there, I'm going to have a really awesome experience. And I do.
Yeah.
It's so intimate. It's wonderful.
My daughter went there with her friend. I've not been there, but I need to check that out.
You need to check it out.
I can't remember who she saw there, but somebody she wanted to see.
It's a killer space.
I finally got to the Commodore in Vancouver a week or two ago.
Oh, yeah? Did you like it?
Oh, what a great venue.
Who'd you see?
Joy Oladokin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it reminded me, for good reason, of the Showbox. I mean, kind of similar.
I love the Showbox.
Scale and vibe, but that was a great little spot.
You can see really well from pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
The sound is so good.
Yeah, she sounded pretty good.
That room is special.
She sounded pretty. Do you have a favorite show over all these years?
Ooh.
That's hard.
That's really hard. The one that just popped into my head was not at the Showbox. It was at Bumbershoot 600 years ago, and it was Patti Smith.
Oh, yeah.
She had just started performing again, and she was fresh off a flight, and she did a surprise performance, So
Was it on one of the outdoor stages, not inside the Coliseum or Key Arena or whatever it was called at that time?
It was a tiny little, there were maybe
she actually
25
sounded
of us.
good.
She
Instead of
sounded
echoey inside the...
She sounded so good.
Yeah.
And she was just like, she just had that spirit of like, she was rebellious and then still warm and smiling, but spitting, and like, it was everything rolled up into a human. I was like, oh my God, she's so much fiercer than I even realized. I loved her, and she sounded killer.
Are there records coming out this year that you all are releasing that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah,
that we
there's
should know
one
about?
that just came out, and that's Deep Sea Diver, Billboard Heart. It's so good. Like, there is not a clunker on that record. It's solidly great from start to finish. Local band. There's a record by an artist he lives in Brooklyn and was originally from Jacksonville, Florida. He's so good. This is
his
our
name
second
is
record. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Y-U-N-O.
So it's like you would know, but no, his name is
His
okay.
name's
I was like, well, tell me. I don't know him.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's we have a record by Tunde, who is one of the individuals from TV on the radio. His record's coming out in a month, mid-April. It's fucking great. It's a strong, strong record. Really good. We have new clipping. There's so much good stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts. New Alan Sparhawk record. Oh my God, it's really good. Alan, who was in Low, that's an awesome record. Lael Neal, an artist that we started working with her, I think, in 2020. Man, she is just a kind of a mind blow. She just continues to evolve. She doesn't do this. None of these artists do the same record twice, but listening to her kind of evolution as an artist has been really cool and inspiring. I love her, and she paints as well. She's a great visual artist. We have so many good records.
2025 has already been a pretty good year for music, and a lot more to come.
Yeah, we're only like 3 months in.
Yeah. So we have 2 standard questions, and maybe we got to the first one with your gig at the NPR affiliate, but your first job where you took a paycheck, was that it? Or was something before that?
No, because I didn't get paid for that.
Oh, you didn't get any money for that.
Nope.
That makes sense. So, they were giving you some airtime and you were...
Oh, yeah. I totally... I can't even imagine getting paid for that, which is funny. Like at the time, I'm sure my parents were just like, keep her out of trouble. But my first paid job, I'm not going to count babysitting.
Babysitting doesn't count.
Yeah, but like when you get a real paycheck.
Yeah, government's taking money out, taking
It
taxes.
was Becker Junior College, which is in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And I got a job in the cafeteria. I think I worked in the kitchen once or twice and served food to the college kids until there were complaints about my hair because I had a mohawk. And so then
Did they not like your hair? Or was your hair getting in the food?
I know it wasn't because I used like cans of Aquanet.
Oh yeah, to
super
get it
extra
stick
hold.
up. Yeah,
there's no way. There was
you didn't
never
even need a
loose hair.
Yeah.
Because that shit's like super glue.
So they just didn't like the looks of it.
Yeah, which probably, I guess I imagine.
Dyed too?
Oh yeah, it was like fuchsia or black or, whatever color I felt like at the time. Yeah. But the good thing, it ended up being a total blessing that people complained about it, because then I got the best job there ever, which is I just sat my ass at the entry and looked at people's IDs to make sure that they were students who could get a meal. And if they were always trying to sneak like a boyfriend or a girlfriend in. Mm-hmm. And if they were dicks to me, I wouldn't let them sneak the guest in. But if they were really nice, then free lunch. Yeah.
And your mohawk was you were still rocking your mohawk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I sat there like
was-
this with my arms crossed, and
How old were you?
I feel like I started that job at 15.
Yeah.
I worked there when I was 15 and 16. So maybe a year and a half, and I quit that job because I think they kept getting more complaints, even though I wasn't near the food. I mean, I would wash the fucking walls afterwards. Like, they really kept me far away from the foods. I filled the salt and pepper shakers, but they said, you're going to have to start wearing a hairnet. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and so I started singing the song, Take This Job and Shove It. And I walked out because I had another job at the same time. I worked at a gas station, and I loved that job. It was amazing.
Like behind the counter?
Yeah, it was a self-serve gas station.
Yeah, so you weren't pumping.
I didn't have to pump, but I'd go out and read the pumps afterwards and make sure everything matched up. I knew how to play with the numbers just enough to steal candy bars and shit. And then the best part though was they had an intercom. And so I would prank people walking by. You dropped something. And then I would laugh and laugh, or, it was a blast. It was a great job. My manager was a punk rocker. This woman, Mary.
Loved your mohawk.
She was awesome. Yeah, she had a mohawk too.
Yeah.
And my friend Eva worked there. And I mean, I used to dye my hair while I was working. And then someone would knock on the window and I'd come out all scary looking and they'd be like, ugh. I remember one poor
What a
man.
gig.
He was like shaking. His hands were trembling as he was like putting money in the thing to pay for his gas.
Was he worried you were going to dye his hair or something?
I think he was just like, what am I looking at right now? And is it a human? But I don't know. I mean, I don't think I was intimidating looking, but I mean.
Yeah, you had like a little empire there, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
All right, our final question, Megan. What is your perfect Saturday in Seattle?
My perfect Saturday is either bike riding or walking. And if it's bike riding, I love the loop of Vashon Island. That's my total favorite bike ride. But I'll bike ride anywhere. Totally enjoy it. Or like walking around Lincoln Park, Beach Drive. Extra perfect if the orcas are out, because I am a whore for a whale.
They're out. It's your perfect Saturday, so they get to.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And they've been out like almost every day. Like,
recently?
Oh my God, yes.
notice.
We even had humpbacks the other day.
Wow.
They show up all the time. So, and I get alerts from people. I'm on like a list of like 6,000 or 7,000 people.
Over in West Seattle.
Yeah. And so my phone is buzzing constantly. It was
cool.
buzzing
How
earlier
do you get on
today.
that? You have to live over there?
No, you just have to sign up. I can send you the link.
Oh.
But it's a WhatsApp list by this woman, Kirsty Mule, who is a wildlife specialist in West Seattle. And she started this thinking like, oh, there's probably 100 people or so that will want to sign up. 6,000 or 7,000 people later.
Yeah, that's so Seattle.
Yeah, and it's so awesome.
What other city can claim a WhatsApp for whales?
I mean, for real.
A few, but not a lot.
Yeah. But
That's cool.
that's pretty perfect. Walking the pups. I like gardening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, tending flowers and exercising.
Yeah.
I don't think of it as exercising. It's like,
You're connecting to place, it sounds like.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I can do any of those things with one of my friends, even better.
Mm-hmm.
Or my better half, Brian. Yeah.
Sounds like an all right day.
Yeah. It's a pretty perfect day.
Well, thanks for making time for this. I know you get asked to do these quite a bit, and we hope we've put some questions to you that maybe haven't been put to you recently. And
You did, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
we enjoyed the conversation, and thanks for all you've done for our city and music here and around the world, really. And
You are way too nice.
Seattle is lucky to have Sub Pop here. It's such a great brand and label, and
And we're lucky to have Seattle.
yeah. And I look forward to all those records that you listed that are coming out.
You're going to shit your pants. They're really good.
One more you didn't mention that I'm looking forward to on your label is Sarah, right?
Oh, I love
Sarah
Sarah Cahoon so much. She's one of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
I love her so much. Yeah.
Looking forward to her new one sometime this year.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Well, hope you enjoyed my conversation with Megan. That was a ton of fun. What an incredible asset for the city of Seattle, for our music scene and beyond. So thanks to her for making time to come on Seattle City Makers, and no excuses for taking so long to get her on our podcast. She should have been a first-year guest, no doubt. Well, I want to close out with a recommendation for something you got to check out in downtown Seattle. And as we're getting into some nicer days in the spring, pleased to announce the return of Food Truck Fest at Westlake Park. So if you're looking for a place to grab a bite outside under the sun, don't forget about Westlake Park and Food Truck Fest, which is on the third Wednesday of each month. Features 5 local trucks and live music from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Westlake Park. It's a great spot to grab a bite and connect with your colleagues. So get over to Westlake with some friends and coworkers and enjoy Food Truck Fest on the third Wednesday of each month. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on this episode of Seattle City Makers, presented by the Downtown Seattle Association, with support from James Cito and production by Thread Theory.